Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of our Lord, the most gracious, the most merciful. My name is Wilfredo Ruiz. I am the Communications Director for the Florida chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations. We're going to be conducting today a press conference following the brutal death that a Tampa, one of our Tampa sons, was subjected by Israeli settlers in what is known the West Bank area. He had a name. His name was Sayfollah Musallet. He was a young adult. He was 20 years old at the time of his death. Today, I am accompanied by Dr. Saleh Mubarak, who will be speaking immediately after me, giving a little historical context as to precisely who are those that we're speaking about. I keep mentioning about Israeli settlers. Heba Rahim is our Deputy Executive Director of the Florida chapter of the CAIR. Dr. Saleh Mubarak, I failed to mention, is a board member of the National CAIR chapter in DC. And we have also a family member, Hussam Musallet. He raised Sayfollah's father. So, to some extent, he was like a grandfather to Sayfollah. May Allah have mercy on his soul. A couple of years ago, or a year ago, I tried to call the attention of the media, and I did get some media attention to the fact that some Israeli settlers went to a town whose name is Turmusaya in the West Bank. And they went there and burned down, arson, the residences of some of the Turmusaya residents that happened to be American citizens. Like the majority of the residents of that particular town of Turmusaya. It provoked some echo in the media. It reached the government, and our government sent a delegation from the State Department there to inquire how come people dare to burn down the houses of American citizens abroad. The results of that investigation, if you don't know them, I don't know them either. That means that impunity reigned on that crime as it has reigned in other crimes committed on American citizens by the Israeli settlers that appear to have some kind of condition that are people untouchable by their government, untouchable by international justice, and untouchable by American justice. That cannot happen. The very essence and the main reason people have a government is for that institution to protect them. So this press conference is about if the United States of America is protecting its citizens abroad or not, or is protecting some citizens and some not, or perhaps is prioritizing non-citizens over our own citizens. Dr. Saleh Mubarak will give a little historical background in 3 or 4 minutes of who the settlers are. Because the settlers, not my opinion, but under international law, have been declared as illegal settlers. And to simplify it a little, these are people who are stealing land, I emphasize, grabbing and stealing land, not buying, not being given by any government, stealing land, occupying land under the auspices and protection of the Israeli government and the protection of the Israeli Defense Forces. First, they started stealing land in the order of tens of thousands, later hundreds of thousands. Right now, there's an estimate almost 1 million settlers under the auspices and protection of the State of Israel, that not only now their crime is that they steal land and they are squatters, is that they are open and willing to knowingly go and burn down houses of Palestinians, disregarding if they are American citizens or not. And since they already tested that those levels of impunity could protect them even more, now they not only kill someone, but they beat them with a bat to death. They started by shooting, and they shot an American journalist with the cameras of the whole world on. And what happened to those? Nothing. And now, I hope and I pray that justice comes. Please, Dr. Saleh Mubarak.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everyone. I don't know where to start, but I'm not going to focus on the settlers only, but the whole state of Israel started with gangs. If you go to the history, the Ergon, the Stern, Haganah, and they were doing this not only to the indigenous Palestinians, but even to the British occupiers who facilitated their coming. And we don't forget the King David Hotel blowing up in Jerusalem, which after that the British government declared David Ben Gurion, who is now named after the airport there, as a terrorist. But I want to go back even centuries before to show that this is not an issue between Jews and non-Jews. I came from Syria a long time ago. I haven't seen my country in 45 years. But we had Jewish community in Syria, in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in everywhere. For centuries, we coexisted without any incident. In fact, if you look at the history of the Muslims and Jews in Spain, which was under the rules of the Muslims for like nearly 8 centuries, and when it ended and the Catholics defeated them, what happened to the Muslims and Sephardic Jews? They were forced to either convert or to leave. And what happened to those Jews? They left to Muslim land, to North Africa, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and to Istanbul. And if you go now to Istanbul, you will see the Jewish community there who traces their ancestors to Spain. And if you you want to listen more about the Jewish history, Jewish Arab history, please listen to Professor Avi Schleim, Jewish Iraqi who lives in Britain, who documented how the Zionist gangs blew up Jewish synagogues and others in Arab countries to give impression that you're not safe there. They have been safe for centuries. And the history of Israel as a state is full of violations of United Nations resolutions, one after one after one. In fact, the very resolution that acknowledged or accepted Israel as a state in May of 1949 as a state, it was based on 2 conditions that neither of them was fulfilled. implementing a resolution 181 in 1947 and implementing resolution 194 of 1948, which said that those Palestinian refugees have the right to return. It's a violation after violation, and the relationship between Israel and America is so interesting that they are infallible. They are above the law, whatever they do. And every time there is an investigation of an incident, that investigation reaches a concrete wall. It's like, many incidents. The USS Liberty in 1967, the Jonathan Pollard, and so on. So many stories. And those U.S. presidents who try to put a limitation, somehow that did not continue. The only successful intervention was in 1956 when President Eisenhower stopped the aggression on Egypt, the triple aggression by France, England, and Israel, which they came and occupied some land. In the early 60s, President John F. Kennedy tried to force the Israelis into investigation of their nuclear facilities. In the early 1990s, President George H.W. Bush just put a pause on the $10 billion guarantee, and hell broke loose on him. So many incidents that shows that, unfortunately, most of our politicians, their loyalty is Israel first, and you probably saw that in the interview with Texas Senator Cruz, that it's like Israel first. It doesn't matter what they do. So it's here I'm not as an Arab or a Muslim, as a human being, demanding one standard for all. That one standard. When I tell you the story, I'm not going to tell you the identity of the perpetrator or the victim, and I want you to judge. And after that, I will tell you the identity. So if I tell you that Palestinians beat a 20-year-old Israeli, what's going to happen? Of course, everyone will be. And I said, wait a minute, I made a mix-up between the identities. Then silence will run in. The issue, to me, is not just territory. The issue is the recognition of the equal value of the human of the human life. It doesn't matter what your color of skin, what's your religion, what's your ethnicity, what's your background. Once we accept that all humans have the same value, I think we will, come to a beginning of resolving this issue that has not been resolved. And I'm optimistic, and I'm seeing more and more Jewish intellectuals, Jewish brothers and sisters coming to our side. I can stand here, and out of my unorganized memory, I can name at least 50 of them. I named Avi Schleim. I can mention Gideon Levy, Ilan Pape, and Noam Chomsky. Many. A list goes on and on. They realize that this state is not for the good welfare of the Jewish people. It's a Zionist colonial project that is not in the welfare of everyone. And I believe in one-state solution, and that one state should have equal right to everyone, regardless of their background.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's also a chair here at the front if somebody would like to fill it before we start. I'd like to take just a quick moment to also recognize the people on my right to your left. We'll start with Brother Omar Saleh, who is the lead attorney for our Civil Rights Department. Brother Khalid Al-Hamzawi, who is a board of directors for CAIR-Florida, and our sister Alina Hussein, who is a staff attorney with the Civil Rights Department. My name is Hiba Rahim, Hibarahim. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for CAIR-Florida. We're gathered here today, incredibly heartbroken and grieving the murder of Sayfollah Musallet, a 20-year-old American citizen and resident of Tampa. Sayfollah was born in Port Charlotte, Florida. He grew up in Tampa. He grew up between Port Charlotte and Tampa, and he was a young man with dreams and with plans and with a future, but that future was cut short because his dreams were ended when he was brutally beaten to death by illegal Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. Saif's mother and father will never get to hug their son again. His siblings will never hear him laugh again, and his family will never see him again. Sayfollah went to visit his family this summer. Just weeks ago, he was on their ancestral homeland, and he was trying to protect a piece of their land from being taken and stolen by illegal Israeli occupiers. But a mob of Israeli settlers ambushed them, surrounded them, and ambushed him and the two others that were with him, and they beat two of them to death with clubs and bats. Sayfollah had more than his land stolen. He had his life stolen at the hands of people that our government continues to fund and protect. Some media reports have indicated that there were clashes between two groups of people, and I want you to know that these are lies. These are lies. There were no clashes. These are the same lies we hear every time a guilty party is guilty of monstrous activity, like what we saw with Sayfollah's death. They throw around triggering words to confuse people. They throw around triggering words like terrorism and clashes and fighting to build support, but it is time for us to open our eyes and understand the nature of Israeli aggression and to say enough. There is no confusion in this story. This was a cold-blooded murder, and our government needs to remove the curtain of deception from its eyes and our eyes and demand a stance. Take a stance, and we demand accountability. I want to point out that this is not an isolated tragedy. There's a devastating pattern of Americans being killed in Israel, brutalized and murdered with impunity by Israeli forces and settlers. Omar Rabia, 14 years old, New Jersey. Shireen Abu Aqla, Omar Asad, Rachel Corey, and now Sayfollah Musallet. We add his name, unfortunately, to the list of all Americans, all killed, and none of their killers were held accountable. This weekend I wondered, once again, where is the outrage from our government? Where is the accountability? Where is the justice for a family that is grieving the same type of justice that another family would receive if their child was killed like this? Let's be clear about one point. If Saif was killed by anyone else or in another country, there would already be investigations. There would already be attempts for arrest and calls for arrest and outrage in Washington. But our U.S. State Department said they want to remain silent out of respect for his grieving family. We're not asking, and his family's not asking for silence. We're asking for accountability. So if you want to respond to the family's needs, then speak up. Speak out. It should not be that your passport only protects you if you come from a certain religion or belong to a certain ethnicity. We're calling on President Trump, the U.S. State Department, and the Department of Justice to find those who committed this crime, to arrest them, and to prosecute them under U.S. law for the murder of an American citizen. And we ask every journalist, every elected official, and every American with a conscience, do not let Sayfollah's name fade away. Say it, share it, and cover it. Cover it in your reporting. Demand justice in his name. The pain that his family is going through is one that no family should ever experience. To our local Hillsborough County officials, to our mayors, to our county commissioners, to our city council members, one of your residents, an American who lived in Tampa and worked in Tampa, was brutally beat to death. We call on you to publicly condemn this murder, condemn Sayfollah's tragic death, make a public statement, be brave, take the path of moral consciousness, be upright, reach out to his family, attend the vigil that we're planning on Saturday, July 19th, in remembrance of this beautiful young man, and stand in solidarity with a grieving family and the Muslim community. I will now introduce a family member, his uncle, who's so brave to come here today. I had reached out to multiple family members and invited them to come, but the grief is so unbearable to know and hear. And this is not the first family member of their family who died or who's been beaten. It happens that it's the first American that I'm aware of, and that's why we're reporting it. But every soul is a human soul, and every soul deserves to live. So I will introduce Hussam Musallet, his uncle, who, as was mentioned earlier, raised him, and he will speak to him as a person. Thank you very much.
I don't know, it's kind of, I mean, Sayfollah was just a very rare soul. He was very loving, caring, and I mean, just like any other 20-year-old. He would go out with his friends. Nighttime, he would go and after work, Wawa run, he would call it, watch comedy. He was just so, I mean, it's hard to explain. He would come to my house always and come to his grandmother and give her a hug, kiss her hand, hug, gave us, but he was just, I don't know, it's kind of, he would just, one time we took him to a game, the Royals against Tampa Bay, and he was so excited, but then all of a sudden we look over, he was asleep. But he was just that kind. He was just so, and for him to be killed by illegal Israeli settlers, protecting his own land for no reason, just because nobody would step up and help him. After 3 hours, the IDF, illegal Israeli settlers, stopped the ambulance from coming to help him. And when he was brought back, his brother helped him out. He saw his brother saw him take his last breath. He could not, he was just gagging because of the pain, because of the beating. It was, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, he was just like a regular kid. I mean, to me, I remember him when he was born. He grew up in Port Charlotte. He went to school in Port Charlotte. I mean, everybody knew him. Everybody, whoever met him, just fell in love with him because he was just so, just loving, respectful. And then to be taken away by the way he was murdered, illegal Israeli settlers. And then the IDF just stands there and watches them. They give them the way to go in there and just do whatever they want with nobody says anything to them. More than that, I mean, what can I say? I mean, he's just going to be missed and loved. I mean, I just don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Yes, we're open for,
Can you spell the brother's name?
yes.
H-E-S-E-A-M.
The uncle's name is Hussam Musallet, H-E-S-A-M. Last name Musallet, M-U-S-A-L-L-E-T. And we're open now for questions. Any questions? Yes.
Just housekeeping here. If the itinerary isn't written down, you go one by one and say names, titles, and spell names.
Sure. Sure. You want to go?
Omar Saleh, attorney at CAIR-Florida.
Omarsaleh.
Khaled al-Hamzawi, Khaled Alhamzawi, CAIR-Florida board member.
Alina Hussain, staff attorney with CAIR-Florida, ALINAHUSAIN.
Wilfredo Ruiz, CAIR-Florida Communications Director, WILFREDO, last name Ruiz, RUIZ.
Hiba Rahim, HIBARAHIM, Deputy Executive Director for CAIR-Florida.
Saleh Mubarak, SALEH MUBARAK. I'm a CAIR National Board member and a resident of Tampa.
And already spelled his name. Any questions? Follow-ups? Yes?
I have a comment instead of a question. There's a couple of references to illegal Israeli settlements. It can be misconstrued to suggest that there's such a thing as illegal Israeli settlers.
Yeah.
They're all illegal.
Yes.
They don't even need to make that distinction.
Yeah, and the reason I'm glad that you brought that, because the issue is the normalization on our reference to the Israeli settlers as if it was something normal, and if it was an entity or part of the population of Israel that we are supposed to just accept their conduct, accept the fact that they are grabbing and stealing land daily, accept the fact that most of the money they got for that purpose comes from America, not only our government, but a bunch of non-profits who support precisely that illegal land grabs and the safety and security of those individuals who can, for example, carry guns when their neighbors cannot carry guns, who are protected by the IDF forces who are trained and supported financially and militarily by us. So with that level of cooperation with these criminals, our government should have a reach to those who commit these atrocities to bring them to justice. Because what we expect is, if you're good, our government is good to support that illegal activity taking place in over a generation, then our government should be at least good to assure the very essence of what the governments are for, the protection of their own citizens. We're calling for no more than the protection of our government to our citizens. And those who murder our citizens here or abroad, that our government does everything within their reach to bring them to justice. Our government have been capable historically to even kill American citizens that they consider a threat to the United States. If our government has been capable of doing that to protect us, we expect no less than to bring those thugs and criminals to justice. Yes, the other question, please.
Can we have the uncle talk about, we know he owns an ice cream shop.
Sure.
Sam does, and when did he start it? It was his dream to be an entrepreneur. If you could come up to the microphone, talk a little bit about that ice cream shop.
Yeah, he bought that about a year ago. He's always looking to, he wanted to be a businessman. Always, ever since he was young. He opened up that when he was planning on expanding, finding him a wife, having a family, and that was his dream, but it was just cut short. 20 years old. It was just cut short of, unjustly. There is no. There's somebody needs to be held accountable. He had a life. Like I said, he'd get up in the middle of the night. He would go out for a Wawa. They called it the Wawa run, just to get a sandwich, sit down with his friends, and then and then that ice cream shop was his passion. It's the best I can. He was phenomenal. He was.
Yes, stay here.
One follow-up and then one other question. What was the name of the ice cream shop?
Ice creaming.
Ice creaming?
Ice creaming.
That's great.
And what are you afraid that the media might get wrong about what happened?
He was. kind of hard to. I mean, the media always tries to play it that sometimes like he's the bad one, but he was just there defending land that belonged to him and his father from, Israeli settlers that were just coming to steal it from him. And he was just there standing there to stop them from coming in. And then they, you saw what happened.
Did he go over there with the intent of having to defend that land, or was this something that arose while he was there?
He went there to visit his mother and his family, his friends. He was just there. He went there to try to find, like I said, he wanted to get married. He said he'd find him a nice wife. But he was just there to visit, to have fun. Go out in the mountains. They make barbecue. Him and friends, and just like any other 20-year-old would do.
What do you know about the interaction that led to this?
I don't. It's illegal settlements. I mean, it's just settlers. There's nothing really that provokes it. They just do what they do because they can.
I know he was busy with the ice cream shop, but you've mentioned Wawa runs. What else did he like to do in Tampa?
He loved watching comedies. He would go out driving. He'd go to the beach. Things like that, just like a normal kid.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
Do you have information on how many Americans are being held in Israeli jails and prisons?
Not at this time. Do we have, sister? Not at this time. I can provide it to you later.
I understand that non-Jewish people in Israel and the occupied territories are generally referred to as Palestinians, sometimes as Israeli Arabs, don't have full citizenship, as we've been saying.
Yes.
Israeli citizens within the state of Israel that we call inside the Green Line, not
Exactly.
the occupied territories, have the right to carry Uzis.
Yes.
Whereas Israeli Arabs, people who are not Jewish, do get to vote in elections, but they do not have the right to carry weapons.
They have specific traffic lanes for them, another lane, traffic lanes. It's a system of apartheid. And our media, our politicians, our elected officials are always so shy of calling the things like they are when it refers to the state of Israel. Perhaps in the case of the politicians, we understand it because most of their campaigns are tied up with AIPAC compromises that they need to do, that if you want to get the AIPAC monies for your campaign, you cannot criticize the policies of the state of Israel. But absent of that, the illegalities that the state of Israel commits, imagine their prime minister is a fugitive today of the International Criminal Court. What I'm saying is not CAIR's opinion. It's not the Palestinians' opinion. There is a court, an International Criminal Court, that is in charge of observing that the countries of this planet behave and conduct themselves within the parameters of protecting the human rights, protecting the hospitals from being bombed in a war zone, protecting the churches from being bombed in the war zone, protecting the mosques from being bombed in the war zone, protecting the shelters from being bombed in the war zones, protecting you journalists from being killed. Over 179 of you have been murdered by the state of Israel with total impunity. Total impunity, not half impunity, total impunity. So when the International Criminal Courts observe that and have evidence of that, they order the arrest of those enablers of that international war crimes, and the main enabler is Benjamin Netanyahu, who was here welcomed with a red carpet in the White House a couple of weeks ago. We live in a bubble with a perspective that is this Israeli-American perspective, that is not the perspective that the rest of the over 170 nations of the world are seeing America and Israel behave. Or do you think the rest of the planet do not see America as complicit of the Israeli war crimes that have been denounced by the International Criminal Court? Yes.
Would you like to comment on the recent opening of the Extend drone factory in Mango within Hillsborough County that's touted to be able to produce 3,000 drones for Israel?
I'm very glad to address it. This is a portion of what these governments, the local governments, do to enable the state of Israel aggressions towards Palestinians. For example, Palm Beach County sends hundreds of millions of dollars in Israeli bonds, our tax money, in Israeli bonds, so that Israel can enable the war that they're enabling. So from our local governments to the White House, they are all enablers of these type of crimes that, unfortunately, we still too shy to call out. And perhaps our grandsons, our granddaughters will ask you, when these war crimes were happening, and you were a teacher or you were a reporter, what were you doing? The same questions that we asked when the Nazis were exterminating the Jews. What were the people doing when this was happening? What were the journalists doing? What were the politicians denouncing? That they enable this Holocaust. Same questions our future generations will ask of us. What were we all doing when Israel was killing 60,000 children with total impunity? Children that you don't need to adhere the word innocent, because by definition, children are innocent. What were we doing? What were we calling on Israel when they were killing 50,000 children? This is another one of those 50,000 children, some in Gaza, some in the West Bank. What is a pattern of crimes, war crimes, thieves, stealing land, total impunity. But our reality, like I said, is not the reality. Just tune in Euronews. Tune in today and see what Euronews is reporting on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. And you will see how dissimilar Western news across the ocean are reporting and portraying the realities of Gaza. Watch it tonight. Euronews is free.
Spell it, please.
Euronews, E-U-R-O News. And they give it in every language, like in 12 different languages. With different, total different reality. People being censored. Doctors being fired from schools if they criticize, from hospitals if they criticize the state of Israel. Attorneys losing their jobs in the law firms here in Florida if they stand for the people of Gaza. Our student organizations trying to be shut down. It's a systemic silence that they want to buy from the people, from the students, from the media, from everywhere. Some are easier to buy. Those are the politicians. That's why we see that they are very swift in not providing negative statements, because they will lose immediately campaign money. Yes.
Yes, do you call upon the Hillsborough County Commission to close that killer drone factory right here in Hillsborough County?
Of course, anything that enables the occupation of Israel on Palestinian territories and the oppression that Israel continues to do on the Palestinian people, we need to oppose. From that to the Israeli bonds, to the monies and logistics, to our armed forces being trained by criminal armed forces. What do we want our armed forces? What good can our armed forces learn from the Israeli armed forces? What good? I don't want to divert the attention of what brought us today. It's a life of a Tampa youth, American youth, who was murdered brutally by Israeli settlers. And we are praying that our government does something about it. And announcing investigations, believe me, will not suffice. Because I know that after some pressure, the experience tells us that after some pressure by the Department of State, the government of Israel say, oh, we are doing a deep, thorough investigation that will result on the same result of every other murder of American citizens by Israeli, either IDF forces or settlers, in absolutely total impunity. And this needs to stop at some point. And if this government went and gained the White House under the theme of we are American first, and we're going to protect America first, and we don't want need of the NATO, and we are first and first and first. That's precisely what we're asking in this press release. Show it to us that Americans are first. Yeah. No. Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, we are good to.
Thank you very much. We're around for questions if you have any. Thank you for covering this story.
Thank you so much.